Welcome back to the All Purpose Pod for an All Purpose Life. Wherever you are today and however you're listening, today call me Mr. You, the podcast. We thank you again for making us a part of your morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you go change the world, baby. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, the Twitter. Download, subscribe to our show, like, share, subscribe. Football Talk with Bo is in the building. Good morning, brother. How you doing, man?
Good. How about you, bro?
Fantastic. It doesn't look like it, doesn't feel like it, but that's what I'm saying. That's my testimony. I'm sticking with it. But a lot to talk about, man. A lot going on. You have a good weekend, though? Let's try to get that out of the way before we start hitting hard all this sports stuff.
Yeah. No, it was a good weekend. It, did a little research for one of my spots that I'm going to do on the sports bar series, and caught the Washington-Oregon game, which that was every bit of what a top 10 game should look like. So it was a good game.
I got some bits and pieces. You got some stuff on that. Maybe we can bring it a little bit, but but yeah, this is today our show was designed today just to talk about the direction of the Giants. That's where I had intended to go. It's going to be a little bit more difficult today because I didn't get a chance to catch the show. It wasn't a show for anybody from what I heard, but I didn't get a chance to catch the game, so I missed it. Circumstances outside of my control. We want to talk Bill Belichick and him potentially being on the hot seat or not, which is our poll question for today. Does Bill Belichick deserve to be on the hot seat? Also, the coaching carousel. A lot of head coaches potentially saved their jobs this week, or some may have sealed their fates this week as well. And we have our lines open up for viewer questions from all of you guys follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, etc. So if your team is causing you angst, we'll try to get through it together on this show today. We're here for you. But I was thinking a lot about crossroads in preparation for the show. For those of you who don't know what that is, a crossroad is an intersection of two or more roads. It's a really important stage of development. It's also a place of uncomfortable decision. Perhaps you're faced with doing something that maybe changes your life, but you don't care about how the change is going to take place. It could indicate two opposing thoughts or the inability to agree on one course of action or direction. We see that a lot in life. We see it a lot in sports. We see it a lot in family. Crossroads aren't easy. The options that may look similar in the beginning don't turn out that way at the end. So that first step makes all the difference. What would you say, Bo, is a huge crossroad in your life that you faced, and how did that decision go?
Yeah, so I guess
big crossroad for you and how to turn out.
Yeah, well, I mean, jury's still out, I guess, but but I mean,
Okay.
I've gone through a few of them, right? So I mean, I spent almost 20 years in the automotive field, owned my own shop, had lots of certifications, won awards, all this stuff, right? And the building that I had ended up being in a spot that became very popular here in Washington for wineries. And the building that I had ended up becoming too expensive to stay in. Well, the closest building I could find was a couple cities away. And there's a funny thing when you have a location-based business. If you move across the street, right, it's visible from where you are. If you move across the street, you're going to lose 10, 15% of your business. Even though it's across the street, because they're just nobody to look. Like if you were on the left, they're not going to look to the right. They're going to look to the left and be like, oh, your sign's gone. And then they move on with their life. So if you move somewhere else in the same city, you can lose somewhere between 20 and 30%. If you move another to a neighboring city, you can lose upwards of 50 to 60%. If you move a couple cities away, you basically start over. And so after years of owning this business, I was playing around with, do I really want to start over? Because the closest place I could find was miles away. It was literally three cities away. And so I ended up closing it down and leaving the automotive industry as a whole. So it was a major decision in my life because, again, all my training, everything that I had done to that point had me on this path to work in the automotive field, own a shop, all of this. I owned all the equipment outright. So there was so many things that would have had me stay outside of the fact that I would have essentially had to start over from scratch, all these years in. And ultimately ended up leaving, ran another business. So then the next crossroads was me shutting that down and moving to Mexico for a while.
Wow.
Right.
What a move.
So that was after I had that business open for 5 years. Was just like, okay, let's see how Mexico is. And that's why I say jury's still out, right? Because now we just moved back to the Seattle area, and I'm at another crossroads of what it is I'm going to do moving forward.
Well, I know some of what you're trying to do, and I'm pretty excited for you, man. I think it's going to work out really well based on your work ethic and your character. I think it's going to be great. I got a couple of crossroads. I'm trying to find a shorter version of these because one of the biggest ones most folks know, or they heard any of the story or heard any of the podcasts, especially the early seasons, I guess 1 and 2 and some of 3, you hear about, I'm born and raised in New York City. That was my home for the majority of my life. Moved down. I was doing music up there. I had a recording contract with a couple of friends of mine. We were in a singing group together. We were doing R&B and hip hop. I think we're better than most people out there, but that's just my opinion. I thought we did some stuff a lot better than others, but it didn't propel us to the top of anything because just of management and just a few other things going on. So we got screwed around by the record company, and we decided to move down to South Carolina, 2 of us. It wasn't a strategic move. It was just like, we got to go somewhere and regroup, start, getting back to being creative again, producing, and kind of just, getting away from the grind of the city because it was just kind of getting to us emotionally, and and bad things were starting to happen, put it like that. So we had to get out of there. So we made an impulsive move to move with one of the guys in the group, his sister, and moved down to South Carolina, which was like nothing I ever thought of before. It didn't make any sense. All of my relatives had already passed away. There was no reason for me to be down here whatsoever, but it was strategic, and it was a big move. And I ended up, having a huge family that my wife and I made together here. And I think around 2020 would be a big crossroads because everything dried up work-wise. My job with the government, everything dried up. And it was like, it's so easy to go back home then. You're like, oh man, everything's it's tailor-made for you to go back home.
Yep.
Yeah, but home wasn't the right answer though. And long story short, I ended up staying, and a lot of incredible things happened. One of which is this show. I know it's just a podcast to some people, but for me, it was a new lease on life, a new opportunity to kind of find a different part of myself that I didn't know was there before, and kind of explore that. So for me, the jury's still out too, because the podcast could always go belly up, and things can happen, and you never know. It may not be what I thought, but I like how things are looking. I like the direction that we're going in. I love what we do every Monday morning, brother. It's a blessing to me. And my wife, if she was here, she'd tell you the same thing. You're a blessing to her too, just by doing this. And there's some other opportunities that are coming along through. They call me Mr. You the podcast. So it's really been a blessing, man. So this is a crossroad we haven't seen the end of it yet, but I'm seeing a lot of good things along the journey, man. And at the end of the day, somebody wise, and they always fight over who the coach should be attributed to, but they always said the journey is the destination. And that's something I'm learning about me, because I used to be driven, like, in athletics, whatever it was, driven to that goal, whatever that goal is, get there as fast as you can. But I don't want to miss the journey. So I'm learning how to enjoy the journey, because that's where I grow the most. Not getting to the goal, but what happens on your way there. So family, sports, life, we all face this kind of stuff. So it's always a big part of the journey. Your favorite team is probably facing the same thing. It's probably at a crossroad. What do we do now? We're here. It's not what we thought. What do we do now? I heard a quote from my old favorite NFL coach, Tom Coughlin. He was talking to Brian Daboll, and he said, people were asking Coach Coughlin, what should Brian Daboll do because things aren't looking so well? Okay. His response was, keep doing the same thing that you're doing. I know Giants fans are cringing everywhere, but listen to that in perspective. He said, keep doing what you're doing, because tough teams and tough people last. Tough situations don't. So what he was telling Coach Daboll and the fans that were asking the question is, tough people make the uncomfortable choice rather than take the easiest path. Is that what's happening with the Giants? We can discuss that, but it's kind of where we are. So our poll question again, for those that may have missed it, does Patriots head coach Bill Belichick deserve to be on the hot seat? We'll break it down at the end of the show for today. But does Bill Belichick deserve to be on the hot seat? Hit us up with your response to that, either hopefully not on Twitter, but hopefully on YouTube, so we can see it and talk about it during the show. So does Bill Belichick deserve to be on the hot seat? If you guys are listening, you're friends of the show, please go ahead and share that question with your guys, and I'll link to the YouTube, and they can jump on and join us today. So how about college football, man? Any quick hits today? I didn't watch any college football. I was in conference the entire weekend, so I missed everything except some of what you were talking about with Oregon and Washington. You want to break it down a little bit, or we going to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch a lot of college just because I was, out there doing some research. So I just caught part of that Washington Husky game. I missed the first quarter and a half, but it was an awesome game because
wow.
it was everything that you wanted out of it, right? It was 7 versus 8, and that game came together exactly how that should be, right? Like they were lead changes, they were beating each other up. Like it was everything you wanted out of that football game. And then as a Husky fan, it ended right, with the dub. But
it worked out for you then, huh?
Well, I mean, but my Hawks didn't get one, so I had to, had to enjoy one of the games anyway. But yeah, no, it was a good game. If you didn't see it, it is one worth watching. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I got to see. And I know I talked about it offline because I was in between conference. And I was just feeding for sports at this point. I mean, I love our business. I love what we do. I love the people that we serve. But I was feeding for sports right around Saturday afternoon. I was hurting already. But I was surprised. I didn't know Colorado was on. So I got a chance to see some of that. Friday night was a late Friday night.
Yep.
I got to see a good bit of the third quarter. And shockingly enough, Colorado did the same thing that you and I have been talking about for how many weeks now?
Since season started.
The same pattern.
Yep.
At the end, Dion is asking similar questions, same demeanor. I'm like, we're not, nothing's changing here. We're still at the same place that we were.
Yeah, I mean, penalty-wise, it
discipline,
was worse.
We're still talking about it was worse.
Penalty-wise,
penalties a game. How bad was it?
I want to say there was 17.
You what?
For 130, something like that. I'm gonna double check. But yeah, I
Please,
believe
that is ridiculous.
It is insane. Insane.
7. Wow. Okay. See, this is what we've been talking about. Everybody's on Twitter talking about Coach Prime, we behind you, and I ain't got nothing against him. The fact he was a Cowboy is not something I'm waving a flag about. But I mean, come on, this is crazy. I mean, I was just about the Travis Hunter thing. We talked about that several weeks ago about him playing both sides. I'm like, guys like Charles Woodson with Michigan, he did that sparingly. It wasn't a regular gig for him to be doing that. You risk injury when you're doing that kind of stuff. But also, what I noticed, I took note of, is that you also risk something else besides injury. You risk being competent on both sides. If you spread so thin, you're not honing your craft so much in one area. You're kind of moving around. You those guys that are always called the all-purpose guys, or the Swiss Army knives, whatever. You never hear much about them as time goes on, and talk about Hall of Fame. You don't hear much about those names. Those guys are just plug and play, put them in different places and whatnot, and they don't always do one thing really well. That's just my opinion. You might have stats to prove me wrong. I'm cool with that. But my eyes don't recall people in that spot having long careers where they do one thing well and makes them above the rest. Using him in this way, it's nice and everything here and there, maybe in certain games, but every game,
yeah,
at this kind of rate, I don't like the chances of him staying healthy. And I said that before about Travis Hunter. I don't like chances of him staying healthy for an entire football season. I don't like it. You can't use him like that. But they're doing that, and that's fine. But also what's happening is that it's lack of discipline too. from his part and on the entire team. And we've seen it play out again and again. They just the run defense, which is pretty awful. It's been awful for a minute. But the discipline part too. I mean, those penalties make you lose games. I think they played a part in this game too.
Yeah, so it did end up being 17 for 127 yards. So,
my
goodness. That'll lose you a game. Because when you look at the rest of the stats, right, they're almost identical. So total yards, Stanford 523 to 532, passing yards 399 to 400, rushing yards 124 to 132. So this is like the first rushing game that was decent. And then yards per play, 5.9 to 6.4. So, I mean, when it comes to that, they were very balanced. 30 first downs to 33 first downs, right? Neither one of them converted on fourth down. Third down efficiency was relatively close. Both had 3 punts. Colorado had an interception, but the biggest standout is just undisciplined play. 17 penalties for 127 yards. If you're giving up over 100 yards, you're basically conceding a score because one of those is going to be a huge play. Like you can't, there's no way that every one of those was like a 5-yarder. Like some of those were definitely, ones that impacted the game. So, I mean, again, it's just discipline. It's frustrating football to watch. We'll put it that way.
Absolutely. I was just tired of seeing the same thing play out over. I mean, I almost could predict it. I'm like, I know what's going to happen here. Didn't Shador throw like 50 times?
Oh, I'm sure. Let's see. We got.
I was pretty positive he threw 50 times.
48. Yeah,
in 48. That game. 48. Okay.
Yeah, 48 for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, the stat line's amazing. So
if that's what you're going for, but that wasn't supposed to be the plan, was it? What the running game seemed to be not involved in these games.
It's definitely not.
It's riding on Shador's arm. Like, how long do you think this can last? I mean, everything they're trying to do, it all has a short shelf life to it.
Yeah,
and it's like, and they just rolling with it. And Dion is frustrated. He's about to lose his mind in the post-game conferences. It's like this plan is not good, and I'm sure that some coaches are going to get fired. It's only a matter of time. I mean,
like that's tough. It's the first year of it. So it's the first year of this thing. Awesome that.
Does he have a first-year face in the post-game conference?
Well, he brings his own media circus, so that's on him. But I don't think any of his staff really gets let go after 1 year, especially when you figure it was a 1-win team last year. They're ultimately probably going to be a bowl-eligible team. So, I mean, I don't think anybody lets go. Like, that is a leaps and bounds jump forward from where they were. So he's bringing in it's a lot of new players, right? Because, I mean, he's also stitching this team together, not making excuses. Like, this is an undisciplined team, period. But that being said, I don't think coaches end up getting let go after 1 year with that much success in the first year with a lot of moving parts. Because it's not like he brought back the team, like he literally let go 90% of the team, which he should, right? Because it's a 1-win team. But when you have all new coaches, all new system, mostly new players, it's going to be hard to be where the talk was.
Okay.
So now if they do this same stuff next year, then yeah, I bet coaches start disappearing off that roster. But
I don't know. I just have I don't want anybody to get fired. I don't want Colorado to not win. I have no dog in this fight.
Yep.
We talk about him every single week almost because of just the media circus that's at play here for the most part.
It's the noise around it.
That's the only why I even bring it up, but I got a bad feeling about their DC.
Yeah.
Just I don't know what it is, but I don't think he's going to make it. And I don't know why, besides what I'm seeing, which is not good, I don't think he's going to make it. But you guys think even hearing from the Herb and Rob podcast, they kind of feel like you can't get rid of him. They only won one game last year. You can't fire them after improving.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right?
Okay.
Like it's 1 year. There's a noticeable
I hear you.
improvement. Although I will address his other question there. If Washington loses to Oregon in the championship, do they get left out? Yeah, there will only be one Pac-12 representative in that national title conversation. So if they do lose, then Oregon would end up getting that nod because they'd be the conference champion in that scenario.
Here's my question for you. I don't even want to talk about that. Here's my question for you.
All right.
There's two quarterbacks in this game.
Yep.
Both going into the draft, I think, right?
Should be, yeah.
Or at least Oregon. Who's
I think both of them would actually still have a year of eligibility, but I think they're both going to ultimately go.
Who do you like more there? I think quarterbacks will start going higher and higher as this draft gets closer. It seems like that's what's going to happen. A run on quarterbacks again.
Yeah, well, and there's quite a few that look good for this draft. I like Penix Jr. Out of those two.
More than Drake May too, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because I might actually take him over Caleb, but just because I like the style of play a little different.
Yeah, that's something that we. I think you might want to mark that one down, put a pin in that one.
No. I mean, it has to do with where kind of offense you would want to run, right?
We're going to touch it now. I'm just saying, put a pin in it. We're going to talk about it again in a week or two. I think that everybody's saying Caleb. I'm like, yeah, everybody's not saying Caleb. Just the normal voices are saying that. Number one, yeah, that's not what I'm saying. Even put it like that.
Yeah,
so I want to go into who I like the most out of the quarterbacks. So help me remember that, man, for future. Because I'm guaranteed to let that slip my mind since we in NFL season so much. I might miss that one. So help me out with that, please. Let's go into our power rankings, man. Top 10. Full disclosure, my top 7 hasn't changed. I kept it the same.
Yeah.
Despite all that happened. I'll go ahead and run through mine first from 1 to 10 this time, so you can see the changes at the bottom. And you can go ahead and jump in and get yours. So at number 1, I still got the Niners. Despite the surprise L to the Browns yesterday, Deebo Samuel and C-Mac went out with injuries. I'm not sure that's the reason why per se, but they clamped down on Ayuk as much as they could, and it was just a defensive showcase for the Browns yesterday. So I keep them at number 1. The Eagles, number 2. There's no longer any undefeateds in our league anymore, which is awesome. Now we can get some more parity going, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so Eagles at 2. Chiefs still at 3. I haven't moved anybody. Lions at 4. I couldn't raise them up past the Chiefs, so they're still at 4. The Dolphins at 5. Couldn't take them any higher. The Bills at 6. I didn't get to watch the game, but I'm probably going to explode anyhow. Heard that they won last night. 7. Got the Cowboys still there, despite their game tonight. I don't think a win is going to move them out of that spot for this week. At 8, I got the Jags. Pour them back into the top 10. I think they earned it. They're playing some really stellar ball. I don't know what's going to happen with Lawrence and the little injuries that he's dealing with right now. At 9, I got the Ravens. Brought them a little high from what I had on last week. There's still some issues that we can clearly see with the offense not clicking. Lamar was even less productive this week than he was in previous weeks. The offense seemed to be non-existent. Everybody's relying on either him running or somebody, a running back catching passes or rushing, something, one of those combinations of the two. So their offense is not looking great right now, but they're winning games still. So just really a strange dichotomy. And last, I got your Hawks there at 10. I dropped them a little bit because of the loss, but they're still in the top 10. Like you said, their offense kind of just magically disappeared yesterday.
Yep.
Gino couldn't get the ball in anybody's hands for some reason, but their running game looked pretty reasonable considering. What do you got for your power rankings, brother? 1 to 10?
Yeah, so I still have the Niners on top there. That was a top 5 defense they were going against, so I'm not super mad at a defensive
But you
struggle.
are shocked, aren't you? Aren't you shocked though?
Without a doubt, especially because they didn't have Deshaun in there, right? So to lose to PJ Walker was interesting,
Amazing.
but that defense was the hallmark of that game. So there was just some things that weren't clicking. But that being said, I didn't feel like I had to move them off, at least not yet. I had KC move up into that second spot. I got the Lions moving into third. So I like what they're doing. And I like the way this defense is coming together. Aiden Hutchinson is leading the league in quarterback pressures.
Go blue, baby.
I mean, Detroit's looking like the real deal. Now, granted, it's still early in the season, but hey.
It's still go blue. It's still go blue.
Then I have the Eagles sitting there at 4. So I had them drop a couple of spots because I have not liked their gameplay, even in wins so far this year. So for them to lose to a team they had no business losing to, that was that one was worthy of sliding a couple of spots. So then I have the Dolphins staying at number 5. I had the Bills drop down a spot. It was or 2 spots, I guess. So even in a win, they're really not playing great football. They've had a game here and there where it was nice, but then they've really just played inconsistently. So that doesn't scream top 5 power to me. They're a good team. They're a playoff team, but they don't seem like they're playing top 5 football. So then I have the Cowboys. We'll see. Obviously they play tonight. This could be an interesting game. I'm actually really looking forward to Monday Night Football. There should be a lot of offensive firepower in this game. You got the Chargers that are putting up 400 yards a game and 27 points a game, something like that, against the Cowboys that, let's be honest, has been inconsistent, but the Chargers don't have a good defense somehow. So there could be a lot of points in this game. So I think the Cowboys end up winning, and so they'll stay right there in that 7th spot. I have the Ravens at 8. To your point, they haven't played their best football yet, but they've been getting wins, which is it's interesting. But hey, dubs are dubs, right? So, so they stay there in the top 10. I have them at 8. I have the Jags popping back in. They look like they've figured some stuff out. So I have them at 9. And then I have my Hawks dropping to number 10. And, large in part because they had opportunities to win that game, and they just couldn't quite figure out how to close the deal. So they had scoring opportunities. Gino was real uncharacteristic in throwing some picks, as well as just kind of his decision-making was kind of off. So he ended up getting some sacks where he had guys open and he just didn't pull the trigger. So that is a question mark to me on if this will have lingering effects or if this was just something off of a bye week. They prepared in a way that didn't get them ready for this game. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond next week on whether or not they stay in the top 10 at all.
Fair enough. Got some people chime in. Good morning, Mom.
Hey.
I knocked my coffee out. Guess you're still working on yours, but great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. I know your baby boy is happy to see you here.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into week 6, man. So what are we looking at? You want to start with the Broncos and Chiefs? I don't have a lot there. I got to get a little bit in, but that was still a travel day for me, so I didn't get a chance to dig too deep. I think the biggest concern going into the game was Travis Kelce and a non-contact ankle injury. He had 124 yards in the air, so I think he must be good enough.
Yeah, I mean,
they just allowing offenses to average 36.2 points a game. So I don't know if that's playing a part as well. I'm sure because it's not pretty on the Denver defense side. And at the same time, the Chiefs, your reigning world champions, struggled against Denver on third down, man.
Yep.
And it was like, why? It was like something you saw continually happening throughout the course of the game, or getting bottled up on short yardage situations, couldn't rush. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Pacheco isn't hurt, is he? I don't know what's going on. I kind of expected a lot of great things to happen with him. The Chiefs as a whole couldn't turn their red zone trips into touchdowns, man. They had an inability to do that against the Broncos, which is like, wow, there's something really definitely going on there, because the Broncos are usually getting run over by somebody. In most cases, we had one or two shootouts they had recently, but it was usually a team that didn't have a great defense or something else was going on. But I don't know what's happening here. The Chiefs are getting ready to drop down in my rankings too. I know they're still winning, but yeah, they're not looking great in doing so. What do you see from that game?
It's funny though, because that game, it didn't make sense why the score was what it was, right? Mm-hmm. So when I rattle off some stats to you, let me know if this sounds like this shouldn't have been a blowout. All right. Okay. So we got 197 total yards to 389. Okay. Mm-hmm. Russ goes
about half.
Huh?
That's almost half.
Yeah. Russ had 82 passing yards versus 293. Rushing yards was pretty close. It was 115 to 96.
Okay.
First downs, 14 to 22. All right. Yeah. Third down efficiency. Neither one of them were great, right? It was 4 out of 10 versus 4 out of 13. Neither one of them converted on fourth down. And Denver had a fumble and 2 picks versus just the 1 pick. This game should have been out of hand based on those stats. So, I mean, kudos to the Denver defense to be able to bend and not break, right? Like, they're giving up field goals instead of touchdowns. So, I mean, you call that a win for the unit. But, man, this Denver team's bad.
Absolutely.
You expected it to be a little bit of a battle because it's a divisional game, right? Divisional games are always something a little different. But based on that stat line, that score could have easily been way different.
I think with teams that are dealing with what they're dealing with on the offensive side, because they're both having some offensive struggles. They're not the same. One's a champion, the other one is not. But I really expected it to be a lot more of an emphasis on the running game. That's what I thought was going to happen. I mean, both of their starting running backs was Javonte Williams, who I'm really high on, and Isaiah Pacheco, who I'm also high on. They barely had 100 yards between them. I'm like, that you better emphasize that more, especially because if not, what you have on your hands then is a Russell versus Mahomes. In this game, if you're the Broncos, that's not what you want.
That's definitely not what you want.
You want to be matched up against Mahomes, hoping that you're gonna outpass him. That's not what you want if you're Russell Wilson. That's not what you want if you're Sean Payton. At least I don't think that's what you should want. So emphasis should be on the running game, but that's not what happened. They tried to do it in the air, and I think Russell had 95 yards. I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
22 attempts. So that means he didn't even throw as much as he normally threw. So what was happening here? So I mean, this a lot. This Broncos team is they're going to be in trouble if they're not already. But how they doing the Ravens and the Titans? I don't have much that we haven't already discussed.
What was it?
Ravens and the Titans. I don't have much more that we haven't already discussed already. This is
no. I mean that more or less went how I thought it'd go. It was a Ravens win. I knew that the Titans were going to put up a fight, right? But not get it done just because that offense really hasn't clicked since it's been assembled. But they have a decent.
What happened?
I don't know.
People were telling me about D-Hop and all that, and again, I hate to keep going back to our little contest that we had, but we're talking about D-Hop, whether he was better off with the Titans or the Patriots. I'm still holding the line, baby. I'm saying the same thing I said before. I'm like,
the Titans have twice as many wins as the Pats.
I mean, will we have had the? Come on, man. You know, it's not because of him. No, that's what this is.
No,
This is it's not about how many wins they have. It's not about the Dubs. How much of it is because of him? How much of a difference did he make? Nothing.
Well, and
it's almost inconsequential.
It's why Vegas didn't move the needle on the win total either when he got there.
Yes, but if he was on the other side, would it have been better?
No, it didn't sound like. No, it sounded like it was going to be exactly the same. It sounded like so I guess Vegas was like, D-Hop's done, I guess, because he didn't move the needle in the projection for either team. So
Mac Jones would have appreciated him a little bit more than what he had going on over there right now.
Mac Jones has to stay.
I don't care what Vegas says. That's not but come on.
He's got to stay off the ground long enough to throw the ball.
Anything on the Commanders and the Falcons?
D-Hop in that game had one catch for 20 yards. That was it. Well, the thing that's crazy to me is, like, in this game, Henry almost had 100 yards, but really Henry has been quiet, right? Like, he hasn't been the dominant runner that you expect. Tannehill just isn't getting it done. I mean, not that I thought Tannehill was great or anything, but you got to be able to produce more than 100 yards passing.
I mean, people love the big bruising running back. I mean, honestly, I enjoyed it to some degree with some of the stuff that we had in New York back in the day with Jacobs and Bradshaw and guys like that were, between the tackles guys, didn't mind hitting somebody in the mouth. But there's a price to be paid for that. There's a cost that comes with that. You can't have somebody 6'4", 200 and whatever pounds running into folks and there's no lingering effects. There's no impact, And it's like he's starting to show his age now. It's like he's really starting to see a decline. Dare I say it? And I think he's in a contract situation here now. I think.
Yeah. So this is the last year for him and Tannehill, I believe. In fact, D-Hop was a 1-year deal also. So this could be a full.
Oh, it was a 2-year deal with an option. Yeah,
that's why I say it was basically a 1 year. Like they could walk away at the end of the season if they want. Okay. I mean, it looks like they're ready to blow this thing up.
This team's getting ready to change.
Yep.
I have no idea into what, but they get ready to change. All right. Anything quick on the Commanders and the Falcons? I got nothing on that.
No, I thought the Commanders were the better team and would get that done. But I was curious because the Falcons ended up signing Van Jefferson, and I wasn't sure if they're going to bring that new toy out. Granted, they can't really throw the ball that much, so it's not like I was that worried about it. But yeah, I mean, that was another one where I was like, yeah, I think the Commanders bounce back and get this one done. I mean, there was
Ritter was tossing the ball all over the field. The unfortunate part is that 3 of those balls went to the other team.
Exactly. He hasn't played great football either. So.
No, but I think that he's doing enough that they can kind of figure some things out with him. So I personally am not giving up on him yet. I think he has a lot of promise. I don't want to spend too much time on the Vikings and the Bears because there's not a whole lot to talk about there. I think the part that because Field got sacked 4 times, had a right hand injury, which is like, that's not good. So, and the Vikings, as per the entire season, they've been having trouble keeping drives going. 2 of 13 third downs. I'm like, wow, and wow. The crazy part to me was Cousins off the field, waived his no trade clause. What does that tell us?
He's ready to go.
Oh my goodness gracious!
I don't know who can afford him is the thing. Like unless the Vikings are just going to eat a bunch of the contract, which basically says, hey, we're throwing in the towel on the season. The teams that
I don't think they're get at 3-3.
Well, they would if they got rid of Cousins, though.
No, I'm talking about the Commanders.
Oh. I thought you meant.
I was just thinking, where could he go? Where he can, where they can pay for him. Maybe he has money. I don't think they do. I think they they got some issues financially too. But maybe the Titans wouldn't mind Cousins. I don't know what's happening in Minnesota. I don't know. I don't know if the Vikings are looking at this guy long term.
Well,
He
no,
did.
this is a contract. This is a
Huh?
contract year for Cousins also. So at the end of the season, he's up for a new contract anyway. So like the Titans wouldn't go after him because they're not a quarterback away. So I mean that wouldn't really, like, the teams that could really use him can't afford him, and the teams that can afford him don't need it. So I mean, even though he waives his trade clause, unless the Vikings are literally going to eat almost all of the contract, which we've seen some of that happen this year. So it's within the realm of possibilities, but it would be a surprise.
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, why did I say the Commanders?
I have no idea.
Cousins is not going back there.
No, not at all.
Why did I say that?
0 times. 0 times.
I have no idea why they even came out of my mouth. I think I was thinking about just the game itself and didn't get off of that. So forgive me, guys. That's kind of where I am. Nothing but a fall going on here today. So let's move on. I don't know where Cousins is going, but that's an interesting question for us to ponder. What team could make a move or would want to make a move for him? I have no idea right now, but maybe something we can talk about. Maybe we can put a pin in that one too. So where's Cousins going to end up?
Yeah.
You want to grab that one for us too?
Yeah, I got you.
Keep me honest on that one. Seahawks and the Bengals. You want to put a little time in on that one? You got it, brother. Run with it, baby.
That one was frustrating.
Well, shouldn't take long then. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, so there was some good things to take away from it. One of them was the defense looked really sharp. They were able to limit things across the middle, keep the running game in check, limited the amount of points they were able to put up. So from the defensive side of the ball, it was very encouraging. From the offensive side of the ball, it was probably one of Geno's most frustrating games out, because not only was balls off target, decision making wasn't great, but some of them were, because he threw a couple of picks, you could see he became gun shy, and there was an opportunity at the end of the game where they could have went for a possible go ahead touchdown to win that game, where he doesn't pull the trigger, ends up getting sacked. But when you look at the film on it, it was wide open, and he had the ability to step into the pocket and throw the ball. So hopefully this is a one-off. He was having a bad day. There's obviously the ridiculous, anytime he has any sort of slip up at all, it's immediately get Geno out of there. He's terrible. It's hilarious. Like, you've never had a bad day at work? Like, come on. Let's reel the crazy in a little bit. Besides, what's your answer to that? Because Drew Lock wasn't even in the game, right? Like, he wasn't even right. He got an ankle injury. He couldn't have played anyway. Like, some of the fans losing their mind on it is hilarious. Now, if he strings a few of them together, sure, then you have a conversation, right? But this is one bad game. They're sitting at 3-2. Like, they're fine. They're still a top 10 power ranking type of team. Of the 3-2 teams, they're definitely the best one. And they had opportunities to win that game, so it's not like they got blown out. They hung, a Bengals team that absolutely destroyed the Cardinals, right? And the Cardinals play everybody tough. So
Smith was throwing that ball a whole lot more than Joe Burrow was.
For sure. The
numbers are almost double what Burrow was doing. You said, including interceptions, but
yeah. So I mean, it's one of those. Let's pump the brakes on the panic button here. This team is okay.
Okay. Well, the next few games they got on their schedule are going to kind of indicate that for us.
There's no doubt. Well, and that's why I say it really comes down to how they respond from this game. Like, is this something that Geno is moving into, or was this just a bad day at work? And we're 5 days away from finding out.
Well, let history answer that for you.
Well, I mean,
just think about that. Let's move on to the Niners and the Browns. So
you kind of can't do that, though.
Why not?
Because he
Why
didn't.
not?
Because he didn't
You
play.
can't know what you saw. Why not?
Because he didn't play for 6 of them. He wasn't a starter. So you're comparing last season.
I'm not comparing anything.
No,
I'm just saying.
no. So
You need all the evidence.
if we're gonna go through history, right? So we have to use last year, and then we have to use his 2 years with the Jets, because the rest of the time he wasn't a starter. So there's only so much you can really draw from. Now, if you average the two, you're rolling the dice. But
the fact that he wasn't a starter that doesn't help this at all. Come on, let's keep going. Let's keep going, man. Come on, Niners and Browns. We come back to, we talk about him every week. Go on, get Niners and the Browns. Surprised or not surprised, man? I was shocked.
Surprised for sure.
I thought something was wrong with my phone. I'm like, what happened? Did everybody stop playing and go home while the Browns were on the field? What happened? How they have a lead?
That defense. I mean, they came out with a defensive strategy that worked. It was impressive. It was impressive.
This is without Debo and C-Mac now, just to be fair. I think that kind of changes some things, but you felt like they dominated regardless of that? Or was it because of those things? What do you think?
Well, I mean, McCaffrey still ended up with 11 carries for 43 yards. So, I mean, before he ended up leaving the game, I mean, it's not like he was a non-factor at all. But, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those. They had a really good defensive scheme, and PJ Walker was able to do just enough, right? Like, he was able to find Cooper for, what he had 4 touches for over 100 yards. Their running game was decent. So, I mean, they were able to do some things that people haven't been able to do against this Niners team. And, I give a lot of credit to the scheme because, I mean, this Browns team is a good team. They haven't played well,
Absolutely.
But they have a lot of talent on that team, and they have a top 5 defense. So, like, I'm not mad at the loss. I was surprised by it, obviously.
Yeah. They're very close to being in my top 10, but I kind of struggle with it sometimes. But, excuse me, Purdy, I think he's been perfect so far in his career up to this game. First 10 regular season starts, highest passer rating in league history for any quarterback through 10 games, 121.1.
Yep.
So he's looking fantastic. The Browns kept him off balance, though, man. Had him at 44%. Yep. Just completed 12 of 27. So they were doing something. So just like you said, scheme played a big part. He's well below his average of 72. He rolled below that in this game, 44. So the Browns did some awesome things against him. Real quick on the Saints and the Texans, real quick. I had a so-called hot take about the Texans. They're going to win 7 to 8 games. I'm liking my chances even more right now. Are the Texans for real? When they came into this game, I'm not sure how you and I picked Saints and the Texans. Bless you. I thought I picked the Saints. I don't remember who I picked, but Derek Carr, man, had some struggles. But they both had an exceptional run defense. I don't understand the whole with the running game. Again, this is another situation where their 2 primary running backs, Alvin Kamara and Devon Singletary, barely combined 100 yards between them.
Yeah,
that's something you should emphasize, especially with teams like this that are built the way these teams are built. You should be specializing in emphasizing the run, but that's not what's happening. They're going in the air. Carr versus Stroud, the other match we were talking about a little while ago, and Carr threw for 350 times for 353.
Yep.
1 touchdown and 1 interception, and Stroud was just a little bit under what he'd normally been doing, but dug out the win, man. And he starts on Saints and Texans. If not, we'll keep moving to your favorite guy in the whole league. You ready to move on to that?
Sure.
You ready for that? Colts and Jaguars. I don't have anything to say, but I only have one question. I'm going to talk about the game and all that happened. I'm going to say, how did Minshew do? That's my only question I have for you today. This is your golden boy. You called him the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm telling you,
so I think you
everybody else but you, Bo.
I think you think that means something.
Is not the guy that you needed him out to be. How did he do, brother?
I think you think that means something different than it does. Ryan Fitzpatrick didn't tear the cover off any balls out there. Like he won some games, and he actually would do this exact stat line. He'd throw for 329, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions, and then he'd have a random game where he'd throw for 350 and 3 tugs and a pick. So I mean, he's exactly why I said he's that Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't think you understand what that means. Like, I'm not saying he's Joe Montana. Like, I'm saying he is a very mid guy that is fun to watch.
They called him Fitzmagic for a reason.
Yeah.
He did some really good things, and I'm going to say it was more than the bad stuff because I don't have the data in front of me, but he did a lot of good things that were like, wow. So I never said wow about Gardner Minshew, but you. So
let me tell you let me tell you why that's not the case. You realize he played on like half the teams in the league, right? Literally at least a third of the team. So it's although he had moments where they gave him that Fitzmagic name where he'd throw some crazy ball that would make it through a tight window. He'd also have a lot of games where he would throw picks. And so, yeah, I think you think that means something different than it does. Like you're not going to win championships with him, but it is going to be entertaining.
I don't know what I heard. Perhaps I misinterpreted them. I don't know what I heard. I won't spend too much time on the Panthers and the Dolphins because there's really not a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah, there's nothing to talk
next
about.
Week, I'm going to break down the Panthers. I got some friends out here in Carolina that want to hear about the Panthers. They want to hear something that they can't see on the TV screen. So I'm going to try to offer some insights, I guess. But we're not going to break that team down next week and see if we can kind of figure out what's going on, what needs to happen. Maybe they need to make some adjustments. Maybe going back into the draft and going heavy is a good idea. I don't know how, because a buddy of mine reminded me of they don't have a first round pick. So these are all going right. So it's going to be interesting. I'm a man of my word. We're going to break down the Panthers next week. For all you guys are listening to Panthers fans or have some commentary, we're ready for it. Please join us. They are winless going into 7 games. So, all right. I ain't touching the Pats and the Raiders. I think we're going to come back to that because we're going to be talking Belichick at the end here. But he thoughts of the Lions and the Bucks. I think you and I kind of knew this would potentially happen.
Yeah.
And the Buccaneers kind of did what I expected. I wasn't really, they had a 3-1 record going into this game. I never felt like they had an offense that was like, wow, you can hang with anybody. I never felt that way. You even said it on a different show that, you like Baker and you thought that he would do this and that. I don't know how you feel about that now, but for me,
well, no, I'm not a Baker fan in general because you don't know what you ever get.
You sure you said you like Baker? You didn't say that?
No, for sure. I pick against Baker every time because I never know what he's going to do.
I thought I heard you say something on another show that we were on together about something good about Baker. I forgot what you said. You sure? Seriously now, come on. I mean seriously.
No, without a doubt. I can tell you unequivocally that wouldn't have come out of my face because Baker is that guy where you don't know what he's going to do. He can come out and have a good game, and then he can come out and just be absolutely terrible, and you never know. Which is why I always pick against a Baker-led team because I never know what team is going to show up.
Copy that. Let's move on. All right, let's skip over to the Cardinals and the Rams. Not much to add there. With the Pats and the Raiders, we'll come back to that when we talk about Belichick. Let's just move past that part. All right, Eagles and Jets. So here, wow. We were talking about the Eagles. I'm keeping all the NFC East rivalry and hate out of it. This is just me being unbiased here. They haven't been playing good football, but they've been winning games, and they were undefeated going into this game.
Yep.
I don't know how you get such good fortune, but that's what they had going on. The Jets defense got them. They got them yesterday.
Oh yeah,
they were a 6.5-point favorite. They got them, and I think the -4 in turnovers definitely didn't help or hurt the cause.
Yeah,
for the Jets anyway. I mean, they didn't have Sauce, and they didn't have DJ. They didn't even have their starters, and still pull this game out. And you kind of felt like what could potentially happen. I mean, I wouldn't go as far to call it a trap game, but it was like these guys have been skating by for a little while. not really tested in some areas. I feel like they got tested with against the Pats. I just knew the Pats were going to win that game. So I keep harkening back to it. It was probably one of Mac Jones' best performances this year. I keep on harkening back to that. And I'm not a Pats fan, just something that just stuck in my head. So I'm kind of feel like the Eagles were, huh?
The Pats played the Jets.
No. I'm talking about the
Eagles played the Jets.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Eagles when they played the Pats earlier this season.
Oh, earlier this season. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a really good test. I brought that game up because I haven't seen the Eagles have that much of a test. Because they were struggling with themselves more than anything. But this is the first time they really got tested on the defensive side, and they didn't stand up against it. And Hurts didn't come through. And it's like, wow. I wonder what this means, because they spent all this time kind of riding, and now they ran into a team that shouldn't have won. And the times when the Eagles defense is usually clutch, especially in the second half, they weren't clutch this time. I just wonder if this is an anomaly or this is a sign of things to come. Any thoughts, Eagles, Jets at all? You don't have to. I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, like we've talked about in other shows, like they have not played good football, but they were finding ways to win. And, this is one of those where they finally got caught. The Jets had a great defensive scheme for them. Obviously, they have an elite defense anyway. And turnovers become the factor, right? He throws 3 picks. The running game was really a non-factor. Jalen Hurts was their lead rusher. So, I mean, they really just didn't play good football top to bottom. So, they deserved to lose that game, and they came up against defense that, exposed some things that they weren't able to accomplish. So, do I think there's a blueprint for the Eagles? No. That's a top 5 defense. So, I like baking.
I watched a podcast with the coach this morning. He said, Bo didn't say he likes baking. He said he likes baking. He throws down in the kitchen.
On the grill. I'm not a baker, but on the grill, yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm going to stand by what I said, because he said something complimentary about bacon on one of these shows we were on, and I'm determined to find out what that was, because I know I heard that.
If you can find it, let me know, because
I ain't said it. You said he was great. I think it was just something in regards to this pick 'em. I just don't remember what it was you said. But you picked the Lions, but if you can
find it, let me know, because the odds are low. Because I really don't pick a Baker-led team, because again, I just think he's going to be the problem most of the time.
Copy that. All right, well, I'm gonna let you 1 point on the Giants and the Bears. I didn't watch the game. I got a lot of stuff inside of me regarding the Giants period. So I don't want to go off into a tangent. We don't have time for that. And also, programming note, we'll do the coaching carousel next week. We don't have time for it now. We had too much fun. So we'll do the coaching carousel. We'll forward that to next week. We talk about the coaches on the hot seat, or coaches that should be on the hot seat. We'll discuss that next week. Giants and Bills. Last time I checked, I was coherent and awake and alert. They were up by 6 at the half.
They were.
After that, I could take no more of my physical condition, and crashed, and didn't see anything else that happened. So, what did you see? You mentioned some stuff off air, man. What did you see?
So, one of them is your defense showed up, right? Like they came and were giving the Bills problems in every aspect of that offense. You also had Saquon show up, right? He goes for almost $1, which that team needs. Tyrod Taylor wasn't quite capable enough to get the job done and get in the end zone. The biggest thing is there were 2 huge letdowns, one at the end of the first half, and of course the one at the end of the game. Now, the one at the end of the first half really affected what happened at the end of the game as well, because they were on the one and they hand it off to Saquon. He doesn't get the yard, and they run out of time. It looked like Tyrod Taylor checked out of a play for a running play. They don't have a timeout with only 12 seconds left. You don't have enough time to set the ball and spike.
Okay.
There's just not enough time there. So it was terrible clock management. And, it was bad play calling, because they ran in a play where he had the opportunity to check into a run play. If that's a play right, man, if that's a play right there that you're
I know
running,
one thing at least.
you can't run in a play that has a running option if you don't know what your quarterback's going to do, right? So if you're going to run in a play that has audibles from it, they better all be pass plays if you're not totally sure what your quarterback is going to do. So he hands the thing off. Saquon doesn't get the yard, end of half. You should have been able to at least have an incomplete pass there, kick for 3, right? Like you should have 3 going into the half. So it should have been 9 points there. Let's say they don't get it. Let's say it's 9. Then you get to the end of the game. They get the ball back. Bills score a little too fast. They drive down. They weren't able to convert on a 4th down, but they were close enough to kick a field goal. If they would have made that first one, that'd have been the difference in the game right there. So it really came down.
Where do I begin?
It came down to coaching and clock management because the team did just enough. They could have won.
Yeah, this is so frustrating. I didn't even watch the game last night, and I'm still frustrated. How is that possible? I'll be apoplectic if I actually watch the game. I mean, come on. I've seen one of our Twitter fam whose name escapes me. If you guys are listening, you know that you put this quote out there or this post, feel free to chime in. But one of these guys said that Tyrod never stopped looking down the field, I guess, as opposed to DJ. I'm like, so frustrating.
I mean,
is that what actually happened? I mean, is that really a fair assessment? I mean, that's all I saw regarding the game. I'm like, I think DJ looks down the field. No, I mean,
so
look at his feet. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand that because I think fans want him to throw deep passes all the time, but right now he didn't have time to do a lot of that.
There's definitely not time. So I guess it depends on what it is they mean by that comment, because one thing I will say that Tyrod Taylor was doing different than Jones is when he scrambles out, he ran a lot more like Wilson used to, where he would scramble and still be looking downfield to throw the ball. Whereas when Daniel Jones starts to scramble, he starts to tuck it and run. Right. So if they mean he was always looking downfield in that way, then that's actually not a bad thing. Now, if he's just looking to huck the ball as far as he can, I mean, obviously that's a problem. So I guess it depends on what it is they're talking about there.
I don't want to add context to something that may not be that, but I think they mean the other option. I don't think they're comparing it like that, because I mean Daniel Jones, he is going to be a threat to run.
For sure.
And we need that. That's a good thing, but I think people are just clamoring for them to go down the field more. But again,
you need more time, because he spends so much time on the ground. Like, if you're expecting him to stand in there and try and throw for 40, 50 yards, he's going to get murdered before he ever has that chance.
Especially when the guys are blocking each other. I mean, it's really impossible. But there are times, just to be fair, on the other side of this, because I always try to be fair, especially about this team, because I'm biased to a fault. So I work my darn to try to not to show that on this show all the time. Yep. But there's times where the pocket was clean and he'd run out of it.
Yes. Well,
or he would
to be fair,
overlook pass. I mean, for example, just a quick example. Yesterday during the Dolphins game against the Panthers, it's against the Panthers, so just take it for what it's worth.
Sure.
The Panthers rushed Tua. I don't know how many times it was. They probably blitzed him almost double-digit times or something close to that, right?
Yep.
And he was almost 80% against the blitz. So he didn't crumble under the fact that they were running the blitz against it. He conquered it pretty much every time it happened.
Yep.
And they kept doing it for some strange reason. But, when we get blitzed, there's usually an open man probably about 5 yards away. Daniel Jones doesn't seem to see him.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to me. So he doesn't get credit for because the O-line has been not so great. They sucked, to be honest with you.
Yep.
You know, but that's not there's something that he's at fault for, and we got to own that part. Are we going to have time for Belichick on the hot seat?
I mean, we're at $1.05 already, man.
We are just rolling. What happened?
It's a good hour.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this next week. So let's deal with this and shut this puppy down.
All right.
So the time that we got left, we always going to the OT.
Right?
Good, having fun though. I like it. All right. So under Kraft, the Patriots never had a 30-point loss in the same season.
Sure.
Until recently.
Yep.
Belichick is 71 years old, trying to hunt down that all-time coaching wins record. He's at 299 right now, I think. I think he needs 18 more victories to beat Don Shula's record.
Here's my question. Like 5 years at this rate? Huh? That's another 5 years at this rate.
Woo. I don't know how that happens, but what's Kraft going to do? Because Kraft is one of those guys, I don't know how much you know about him besides what you hear about in the news, which sometimes isn't great, personally. But he seemed to be pretty unemotional when it comes to stuff like this.
Sure, he doesn't like to lose.
Will Kraft let Belichick break the record and deal with the humiliating losses based on his past cachet? Or will he allow accountability to step in for what the team has become and make a change? Maybe he'll strip Belichick of his power as GM and just retain him as head coach, or move him completely and bring somebody else in. Because right now, the wide receivers can't get separation. The O-line can't block. The defense can't stop anybody. Injuries across the board. Zappy, who I like, isn't much better than Mac in terms of production goes. Special team, which is probably the best part of their team historically. I mean, special teams is one of the main reasons why the Patriots were doing what they were doing. You can say Brady and Brady only, but special teams was a big part over the years that they were winning. They won a lot because of special teams.
Well, and they had a good defense.
It's been awful. Special teams have been awful. 2 pick sixes in the past 2 weeks. Can't score touchdowns. Just ugly stuff. No playoffs in 3 of the last 4 seasons. First time in, I think, 23 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they're going to finish last. Huh?
What's that? Okay.
So they're probably going to finish last in the East for the first time in 23 years.
Yep.
What's the deal, bro?
Yeah, so I think Kraft has enough loyalty that I think he'll give Bill a chance to right the ship. I think he would probably strip him of his GM role and see if they can get some personnel in there that can help the situation and let Bill be Bill as far as a coach. Now, if Belichick won't allow that to, if he won't give that up. Yeah, like if he won't give up that GM role, then I think you have to move on, right? Because I think the GM of Bill Belichick is going to get the coach Bill Belichick fired. So it's one of those, they just don't have the personnel. Kraft is loyal, but he's not going to be patient, certainly not long enough for, Belichick to get that all-time win record at the wins that they're kicking off. That'd be another, 5-10 years at this rate. So even if you figure they're a 5-win team at this point, somehow they snag some wins. I mean, you have to endure another 4 years of terrible for him to get that record. I don't see Kraft allowing that to happen. So this is one of those where they will probably strip him of the GM role and allow him to just be the head coach. And then if Bill isn't about that, then Belichick probably isn't on that Patriots coaching staff anymore.
Honestly, just looking over this, 2 things come to mind. One, I don't know where Belichick would be able to go if he's not here anymore. I mean, it's not he's too old to coach, because he's not. I'm sure he can keep doing that. I guess I wonder who would want to take him on, who want to bring him in as a head coach. He kind of has a college football quality to him. If that makes sense at all, where he can be. He's in a kind of in that age group, and people wouldn't mind that in that scenario. But in the NFL, I'm like, who would bring him on as a head coach and be willing to take whatever comes with it And then on my second question is, I can't gauge Kraft on this one.
Yep.
I personally, if I was him, I would strip him of the GM role and get it to somebody else and let Belichick kind of focus on one thing as opposed to two things.
Yep.
That's what I think what I would do. But this record is so bad, and it feels as though I don't know if the players are even into him anymore. I can't really tell. I don't have enough data for that. But that'd be my first thought. But I don't know where he would go if he wasn't here.
Well, I mean, here's a list of some teams that are probably going to need a coach.
No. I don't mean who needs a coach. I'm talking about who would bring him in there. That's not the same thing. It's different.
No, but that's what I mean. Is there's some teams that could actually use the fact that he is one of the best defensive minds out there. So if you were to,
okay, who you got?
If you were to move on from Brandon Staley, and say you don't have Kellen Moore be your interim head coach, maybe you go get Bill Belichick, because what's the one thing that team isn't good at? It's defense, right? You already have an offensive play caller.
How about the Bears then? That's the case. Chicago.
For sure. Chicago could work.
History. They got some pedigree there.
Right? You could go, you could go with the Panthers. Panthers could use some defense. Certainly the Raiders could use some defensive help.
How would that work? You get replaced by your mentor.
The best part about that is Brady's a part owner. So then he'd have to.
Oh my goodness!
Man,
I forgot about that part.
Just the storyline around how that would be fantastic.
That's what like yourself. That would be funny. Now I'm your boss. Oh wow!
Right? That could be hilarious.
I would love that. That's funny. Ooh, we're having so much fun with that, man.
That is 100% the type of dysfunction that the Raiders would sign up for too. So that seems like a very Raiders possibility. Plus, then he'd get Jimmy G back too. Like, there's so many things that are just not quite right about that scenario that would be awesome for what we do.
I have a much longer list than that, but again, we don't have time.
I do too. I just was going over the ones that could potentially use Bill Belichick. The other ones, I don't think he's a good fit.
Ooh, let's play with that next week. Make that part of our primary discussion. But we're at the end, brother. Wherever you guys are today, and however you listen to the Call Me Mr. U, the podcast, and Football Talk with Bo, we thank you again for making us a part of your morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you change the world. We're having too much fun, but please continue to like our show, share us, subscribe. Go change the world, baby. We thank you again for joining us. Have a great day.
Take it easy, guys.